How annoyed are you?
About not winning? Yeah, I'm annoyed. I'm absolutely annoyed. Every year it goes by, I get frustrated. There's a lot of great teams out there. No matter what you do, it doesn't mean you're necessarily going to win the World Series. But I just want to put myself in position every year in the playoffs where we have a chance with a really good team.
All right, folks, back here in Sports Talk Nation, Michael Cohen here with you as we continue. And now let's get finally into spring training here, folks, as the baseball season, certainly we're getting into it right now with spring training. We're now 2 weeks into it. Of course, the World Baseball Classic starts. But I want to address something that was brought up about a week and a half ago when everyone started reporting into camp. And that, of course, was the missives by Steve Cohen. I haven't had a chance to really dig into it. And I've wanted to dig in. I wanted to get into it for several days, and now we're finally going to get a chance to do that. So basically, the quotes, everything that Steve Cohen said about how this team has not won and that he is getting annoyed and that he wants to win and win immediately, and that even throwing a little shade at the Dodgers, saying that, yes, the Dodgers spend a lot of money, but yes, I even have money too, even though the Dodgers spent $3 million more and were willing to pay a little more for Edwin Diaz, he just went really scorched earth on a lot of things. And it shows you that this is an owner who, when he first bought this team, said, I hope to win a World Series within the first 5 years. Of course, that never happened. And now we're going into year 6 now of the Cohen administration here with the Mets. And they're coming off of one of the more disappointing seasons they've had in quite some time. And they had a whole mixed bag all season. Let's just be clear for what it is. I mean, when you lose 2 of your top players via free agency, in Edwin Diaz and Pete Alonso, and you lose them to the Dodgers and the Orioles respectively, and the fan base isn't happy. They're seeing a lot of their favorite players go by the wayside. You had an all season where you're getting outbid by you're losing it by the Dodgers in every which way. You even lose Kyle Tucker, who the Mets thought they had on a contract. He goes to the Dodgers. So everything was lining up with L's until the very last week of the all season, basically last couple weeks, where they swung that huge deal for Freddy Peralta and Luis Robert. Before that, it was not looking too pretty for the Mets, and it's going to be a tough season. And you could see the frustration in a lot of these quotes that came out of Steve Cohen. Let's just go right through them, okay? We haven't won. I really want to win. Each year that goes by, I get more annoyed. It's hard to know when to make those changes, but the other side is we have a sharp management, and they are prepared and had alternatives. Saying goodbye is tough, but saying hello is also kind of fun. So it felt like Cohen was trying to paint the picture, saying, hey, look, I know your fans are not happy a lot of your favorite players are gone, but I'm excited. He was trying to sell the brand of what he has here. Here's what's going to sell the brand of the New York Mets in 2026. Win, and win. They have got to find a way with basically a brand new team to come together and win games. For whatever reason, whether it be clubhouse politics, whether it be just a bad fit with guys, whether it be you want to go dig into all the conspiracies that came out about Francisco Lindor and his relationships with players in the clubhouse, and whether he had good relations with guys like Nimmo and McLean and Soto, and whatever you want to get into, that clubhouse got torn apart in the offseason. That's the facts. And Cohen's coming in there, first thing he says is that this atmosphere feels different and feels more fun. It's kind of throwing shade at last season. Then he says that he is frustrated, of course, he wants to win. And then the biggest thing that he said was the talk about not naming a captain.
As long as I'm owning the team, there will never be a team captain.
Really?
Okay, that was my decision. My view is the locker room is unique, and let the locker room sort it out year in, year out.
And that was kind of a shot across the bow at Lindor and all the controversy that I just mentioned about the fact that there was all this reports, rumors, speculation about a fractured clubhouse, and that Lindor had issues with Juan Soto. And he puts it to bed, saying that there will not be a team captain on his ball club as long as he's owning the team. And then you heard one of the reporters ask him and say, hey, how long has this been your mantra? And he says, oh, it's always been my mantra. Well, I don't know if I always want to believe that this has always been Steve Cohen's mantra, that he's not going to have a team captain here. I think it's the mantra as of what happened last season, with whatever happened last season, and now moving forward. They want to emphasize team first, and we'll see if that does indeed play out. I'll be honest with you. As frustrated as Steve Cohen is right now, and one thing that kind of stuck with me with that is that it's kind of a shot across the bow to everybody. It's like, we need to win, and we need to win now. I think it's kind of a shot across the bow at even manager Carlos Mendoza, who is coming off of a bad season last year where the Mets were the worst team in baseball from June on. And if this team does not improve, I could see the Mets making a move during the season. I certainly could see that. So it felt like kind of a shot across his bow saying, hey, look, you got to do a better job as manager and get this team into the playoffs. And if this team overall doesn't get to the playoffs, it sounds like there's going to be even more changes made. So that was the impression I got from Steve Cohen's missives about 10 days ago when he met with the media for the first time. Now, that said, as I mentioned at the top, this was a rough offseason for the Mets. Do I have confidence that this team is going to be better than they were a year ago? I do not. But if the Mets are going to be good this year, if they're going to be a playoff team this year, there are two reasons why. And they're both in that rotation. And it's Noah McLean and Freddy Peralta. Getting Peralta in that deal with the Milwaukee Brewers changed a lot of things for the Mets. It really did. As I mentioned in my last video on the Mets, when they made that deal, they now have a bona fide ace. They have an opening day starter now in Peralta who is going to be that guy to go out there, and you can trust that he's going to give you at least 6 to 7 quality, superb, maybe even 8, 9 superb innings every single time he goes out, touches the ball. Then you have McLean, who was coming off of a great year last year. The thought was before the Peralta deal that he would be your ace. Well, now he can step back a little bit, not have that pressure on him, and just pitch and be that number 2 guy. And the other day, McLean pitching great in his spring training debut, 4 innings of 1 hit ball, striking out 6 batters. So certainly looks like he is on his way to get this season started on the right foot for him. So if the Mets are going to be good this year, the Mets are going to be a playoff team this year, those are the 2 reasons why, more than anything else. Not only do they have to have a lot of other things, of course, play out and work for them, but they need those 2 guys to lead that pitching staff, because last year this pitching staff was a mess. Outside of McLean late in the season, they didn't have an ace in this team. They didn't have a direction on this team as far as pitching was concerned. And just to get the ball to Edwin Diaz was an absolute miracle in and of itself. So on paper, you would think the Mets bullpen might be a little bit better on paper this year. We'll see, although the closer role certainly scares me when you have Devin Williams there instead of Edwin Diaz. Let's just say this. If all things were the same, if all other moves were the same, and the Mets were able to bring back either Alonso or Diaz, or even both of them, the complexion and the thought process going into the season would be much different than it is right now. The thought process right now is very cautious and almost very low expectations right now going into the season. If they had those other 2 guys, and every other move was the same, with Peralta, even with Luis Robert and Bo Bichette, then I think the expectations would be very, very high this year. That's the difference right now when you subtract at least two very good players in Alonso and Diaz. And again, no offense to Brandon Nimmo or Jeff McNeil. I just felt their time was probably coming to an end anyway. But that's really the big storyline going into the season is, can they find a way to be productive without a lot of those guys here? Nimmo and Alonso, that's, 60 home runs combined out of your lineup. Bo Bichette playing third base, is he going to, I have more confidence in him than I do in some of the other acquisitions offensively. I think he'll be okay. But he, of course, coming off of an injury last year, but he's usually a consistent 300 hitter. He moved over to third. I know he had an error his first game, and everyone's like, "Oh my God, that's it, it's over." It's the first game of spring training. Let's just take it easy, okay? I think he'll be fine. Marcus Semien, Again, spring training stats, I see here he's hitting 375 in spring. You take it for what it is. He is going to be at second base. You have concerns about him as he's getting older. History shows that his offensive numbers have gone down. I really am concerned about first base, especially with Polanco, and whether Polanco is going to be that guy at first base long term, or for the rest of this season rather, or they're going to have kind of a hybrid at first, scares me. And not only that, but you also have Pete Alonso now in Baltimore, and he's putting up a show. I think he got like 2 or 3 home runs already at this point as I'm recording this, okay? So he has been on fire, and I could see Alonso having a monster season down Baltimore, small ballparks all over the AL East. I could see him hitting 50 home runs this year, if not more, and the Mets are sitting here struggling, trying to figure out first base. So I'm very concerned there at first with whether it's Polanco, Vientos, Beatty, however that's going to work out. I'm even concerned about what's going on in the outfield. Are the Mets sure that Carson Bang is ready to take on the role at right field every day right now? I mean, he has barely had much time in AAA, and after a slow start here in spring, he did have 3 hits the other day, but is he ready for this jump? We'll see. I mean, you have your $750 million man in Juan Soto, who was supposed to be a right fielder, now into his second year and already he's in left field. And I'm not telling, look, we all know Soto's not a great defensive outfielder, but already your $750 million man who you paid to play right field, now into your second year, he's down left field. That's a concern. So I have concerns about this Mets team going into the season. I'm not going to sit here and tell you I'm cautiously optimistic, but you could see from Cohen's press conference to now, and when you think of all the things that have gone on so far as we get into spring training, it feels like a situation where if things don't drastically improve, more changes could be coming. So we'll see. The season's, we're still 3 weeks away from the start on opening day and the start of the season. And we'll see how things play out. Hopefully, guys can stay healthy. I'm scared of the WBC, as we all know, especially after the Edwin Diaz injury from 23. Just hopefully everybody gets out of that and gets out of it healthy. And we'll go from there when we get to opening day. Like and subscribe. Leave your thoughts below. How do you feel about the Mets as we move along here in spring training? We'll talk to you next time.